welcome to Manchester.
Welcome to Play Expo, and welcome to the first talk of the weekend. My name's Paul Drury. I'm ably assisted by my mate Martin Carroll over there, and we both scribble for a magazine called Retro Gamer. Our guest today also writes about video games, but he is a real pioneer. These days, the internet is awash with game reviews, playthroughs and angry nerds writing about video games. But if you grew up in the 80s and the early 90s, you usually relied on getting your video game news from monthly magazines. Then, in 1993, Digitizer was born. Via Teletext, you can actually read about games on the same television that you were playing them on. We're very pleased to welcome the daddy very much the daddy of, do you see? The daddy of Digitizer. His mum knows him as Paul Rose, but you might better know him as Mr. Biffo. Can we give him a big round of applause? Mr. Biffo! Hello. Can I just start by saying, do people still greet you as Mr. Biffo?
I've got one friend who I think calls me, no, two friends who call me Biffo.
You've got two friends?
Yeah, they are my friends, that's it.
Okay. Should we actually start by saying why you adopted the name Mr. Biffo?
It's not a very interesting story at all. I hope there's going to be some interesting story. It's named after Biffo the bear. From Pino. Is it a Pino or a Pino? Who cares? I can't see a thing, that light is so bright.
This is stardom for you. Would you like me to call you Biff or Paul?
I don't care. You can call me darling.
I'm going to go. Okay, I'm going to go for Paul. What we've done, Paul, is we've put together 21 pictures to jog your memory about your illustrious career.
Is that because I'm 21 years old?
That's it, absolutely. Got it on it. So, Martin, please can we have picture number 1? So, who is this, and what effect did he have on your childhood?
That is Hungry Horace, which was the first ZX Spectrum game that I can remember playing.
Right, so you were a Specky boy?
Oh yeah, very much so. We'll talk the ST later, but yeah, Specky initially.
I see. Apart from playing games, did you ever program or even design any Spectrum games, Paul?
I remember trying to program some really simple text adventure at one point. And I used to design... no, actually, I can't say this. No, I'm not going to say that. I designed a game for my friends that was terribly politically incorrect.
Really, Paul? Was it some kind of skit on Horace goes stalking, Paul? Was it?
Yes. How the hell do you know that? God, I've become far more discreet as the years have gone on. But I've forgotten about the things that I've kind of previously let slip, clearly.
Are you going to tell us that the game you designed, what was it actually called? Or would you like to talk us through the gameplay, Paul?
No. I bear in mind I was 12. Okay. Go and look it up online.
If you want to know, maybe we can ask Paul later, okay? Clearly, you're a Spectrum boy, okay? Can we now go on to picture number 2? Paul, who is this? And did you dream about stroking her cat?
I don't believe so. That is Teaser from Your Sinclair, if I remember. Do you know, I only would have got that because I happened to look at Your Sinclair website last night. I wouldn't have got it from first.
So is that how you normally spend Friday night, looking at Your Sinclair websites?
Actually, it might have been this one. I didn't sleep terribly well last night, so I'm going to blame that if my answers are a bit sluggish. First thing I'm going to check. This is I've warned Paul that I'm going to do this. First thing I saw this morning when I woke up was Facebook. It was a friend of mine had linked to a photograph, or not a photograph, a video of a tortoise trying to have sex with a roller boot. That was the first thing I saw, and then from that led me to looking at the Your Sinclair website.
Thank you for that link. I just want to ask you a little bit more about the Spectrum. I just wondered, were you involved in the playground wars of the 1980s? Did you have spats with the Commodore 64 owners at all?
No, I had mates who had the Commodore 64, and I was always kind of slightly envious of it because it looked, believe it or not, it looked better than the Spectrum, even though I kind of professed to being a Spectrum boy. It was more the BBC boys that I was not like, because they're posh, they were the posh boys, so the ones whose parents could afford a £300 computer in 1984, for pity's sake.
Yes, no one like BBC owners. Okay, so you'd also got a background playing games and are interested in games. But could we move on to slide number 3? What has this organisation got to do with your future career at Digitizer?
Well, I used the first job I ever had after leaving school was for Ladbrokes Racing, and I designed the graphics for their in-house betting stores. And from there I learned to do Teletext graphics, believe it or not.
I'm just intrigued about this art form of making images out of incredibly limited palette. Is this just from school days of scribbling on the back of of your textbook in graph paper? I mean, how did you get into this?
Well, I got the job at Ladbrokes. My cousin worked there, and they were looking for a new graphics guy. I was 15 at the time when I got the job, and I had the job part-time, and then I dropped out of college and went there full-time. But it was, I don't know, how did I get the job? I had a portfolio of I remember in there was a pencil drawing of an ATAT and stuff, so it wasn't, I didn't demonstrate a skill at a young age for pixel art. I just liked drawing.
And I hear you also managed to get a job at, I can't get this right, at Wembley Stadium, is that correct?
Yeah, so it was after I left Ladbrokes, I'm getting it wrong, God. I went to Wembley Stadium where I worked on the scoreboard doing goal animations and actually scoring matches. And that was one of the best jobs I've ever had, because there was literally no work to do other than on event days. So I used to entertain myself by, we had a scanner, or a digitizer, believe it or not.
A digitizer?
And I remember sticking my face under it one day and animating my own face and then going out and seeing my face on the Wembley scoreboard. That was how I entertained myself, because there was no work to do. Other than avoid this guy I worked with called Dennis, who I was fairly convinced was a serial killer.
How did that pan out? What was he? Well, it wasn't Dennis Nielsen, was it?
Well, Dennis used to be at work before everyone else got there. There's only 3 of us that worked on the scoreboard, and he'd always be there long after everyone else had gone home, so we were convinced that he was living in the rafters of Wembley Stadium. And he had this retractable spike that he kept next to his computer. And we never saw him use the spike, but on the desk next to him were all these marks where he clearly, at points when he was alone in the office, gone like that with the spike. So that was Dennis. Oh, and then he got arrested. No, he went to court. He didn't turn up at work one day because he went to court. And sorry, I told you I was going to do this. I can stop about the time Dennis went to court for someone's tribunal over someone he pulled out of a canal. And when he pulled him out of the canal, the person had a heart attack. And I said, so why were you involved? And he said, oh, because I had this. He told you this voice, he said, I pulled him out of the canal and I had a cigar case in my top pocket and it must have banged against his heart because he had a heart attack and died. That was Dennis. Anyway, so...
I think we all get a little insight in where you came up with some of the characters that later appeared in Digitizer. And we are virtually on that place. Could you go for the next photo, please? So I'm assuming that this is a blind date you arranged through Tinder, possibly. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
okay.
right. Me and Donny Osmond.
Would you like to tell us who the chap sitting next to you is and why he's an important part of the Digitizer story?
That's Tim Moore, who some of you might know better as Mr. Hares, who he was, when I came to work at Teletext, originally I was just a graphics guy, and Tim was writing a page for video games, and I happened to suggest to the boss, oh, what you need is an actual magazine or a whole section for games. And they said, right, fine, you can write it with Tim, because clearly they didn't think they had enough work to do. So we wrote that together. Unfortunately, we were probably the 2 worst people they could have put together imaginable, because we just egged each other on to misbehave and put rude things in.
What did you make of this chap when you first met him? Because I think he was older than you. No offence, you told me that he dressed a lot better than you. So what were you a little bit intimidated at first?
Yeah, Tim's, I don't know, about 8 years older than me, and he was really kind of, I mean, he doesn't look it in that photo, but he was kind of cool, and he was already a professional journalist at that point, and I'd never written anything, so I wouldn't say I was intimidated by him, but I certainly looked up to him, and I feel, at least initially, I kind of aped his writing style, and that's how I learned to write.
Thank you. Our next picture just takes us to the start of Digitizer. Now, Digitizer started in January 1993. We couldn't find any images from there, they're probably on YouTube now. But this is you kind of looking back at the start. So I suppose the first thing I want to ask you, Paul, is that moment, I believe on January the 1st, 1993, when you saw your words up on screen. Did you feel proud, or was it just another day at the office?
Yeah, it was weird because strangely to be a fan of, but I was a fan of Oracle before I came to work at Teletext. I used to have a section on there called Buzz, which was a teenage section that my mates and I used to ring up and leave a message on an answer machine. This is before email and the like, and they'd pluck out the best messages and put them on there. I remember being really proud when I had one of my messages put on Buzz and Oracle. So yeah, I was quite proud actually. It was weird, having something that kind of went out to the nation.
Now I'm going to pick up, you said going out to the nation. By the way, for those of you who are looking at this going, what the hell is that? With our younger viewers, is that Teletext was like an information service that you could access through your telly. Right? I've summed that up pretty much.
Yeah, so there's not going to be anyone young enough in the audience. I know I can see anyone in the audience because of that light.
I'm flattered. Anyway, okay, so what I'm interested in is that you wouldn't have known how many people were reading this when you first started putting it out. Did you assume that it was no one, or your mum and possibly your mates?
It took us by surprise. We never really had a sense of how popular it was ever until the end, because we would get told it was, I don't know, 1.5 million people a week or something like that, and but that was just an arbitrary figure. It wasn't like we kind of would be doing Teletext in front of an audience of 1.5 million people in Wembley Stadium or something. That would be interesting. Digitiser live.
I'm sure you do that now. Well, we're sort of doing it now, aren't we? The other thing I'm interested in is with Teletext, you put on whatever you had written, and then it would just be gone the next day. Maybe this is an appropriate time to thank a chap called Ant. If you're in the audience, Ant, please introduce yourself afterwards. Ant has, whoever he is, has archived well over 100 editions of Digitizer through the kind of mid-90s, and it's thanks to him that we've got these. But normally you would have put this page up, and then it would have been gone the next day or the day after that. And I wonder whether the fact that it was not permanent, did you sense there was a real freedom that you could write what the hell you want, because it's gone, no one ever refers to it?
I don't know if that's what. I don't think it felt like freedom as such. The fact that it was disposable. I mean, I don't know, who knows. I always had a theory that the fact that it was never archived and people couldn't go back is why it was remembered seemingly so fondly, because they couldn't remember actually that probably it was trapped sometimes. It's like when Monty Python kind of came out on video and we realised that kind of only about 10% of it was any good.
That is an interesting analogy. Anyway, so you started in 1993, and almost immediately you start to piss people off. And I think your first target, can I have the next slide, please, was Amiga owners. Paul, what have you got against the Amiga?
Well, nothing really. I don't know. The Amiga, I was actually just saying to Martin that I was probably the worst person to kind of work in an industry that was revolving around technology, because I'm a complete Luddite, I'm a complete technophobe, and I think the Amiga just seemed like too much faff for me. It had like kind of more buttons and you had to load things on it. So we initially wanted to just focus on consoles, and then of course the letters started coming in because our predecessor on Oracle had covered the Amiga quite extensively. And then that just made us, I'm so self-sabotaging. you know, so when people complain, I just end up digging my heels in and kind of being more kind of.
Can I just say, no doubt you dealt with this, right, when someone's complaining about the lack of media coverage. It's certain media owners who show themselves up as being insecure, paranoid idiots. So clearly you were trying to calm things down for them.
Yes, I'm not proud of that. That's like kind of, I'm poor guy. Or Carl, it is a guy, yeah. It is a guy, poor Carl, you know, he writes in, you know, we're kind of trying to chase an audience, and he kind of writes in saying, you know, we're not happy with it, and he gets called a paranoid and insecure idiot.
Can I just say, you look genuinely remorseful?
I can't have. We were so rude to people. It was.
Why do you think you were so rude? Is that just, you know, the arrogance of youth, possibly?
Yeah, partly. And probably it's probably part of that kind of internet effect where, you know, you're behind a screen, and the difference was we were kind of going out to 1.5 million people, and they couldn't respond back by trolling us and stuff, so we could just call them paranoid insecure idiots and not get any comeback.
You also managed to offend none other than Noel Edmonds. Please can you tell us the bizarre story of how you managed to get Mr. Swapshop into the pages of The Sun, I believe?
Well, it wasn't actually Noel that we upset, it was the British Epilepsy Association. This is something like in like our third week of being on air. We put up some stupid story about about how Street Fighter, you know, the headline was Street Fighter, it's out and now YouTube can get epilepsy or something. It wasn't like that witty or that bad. It wasn't like, epilepsy. It's a really, you know, stupid paranoid insecure idiot. And that was so, and then I don't know why I was reading The Sun. I don't read The Sun, I stand The Sun, but I was on the loom one Saturday morning reading The Sun. Too much information. I was having a poo. So I was reading The Sun, and there was a headline that said Teletext wrapped over sick video games, Joe. And then all hell broke loose. My editor or features editor rang up, and so we ended up going through over the phone the entire kind of content on Digitizer with her kind of running through everything. So we had something up on air that day about how there was a fault with the Mega Drive, but if you turn it on, Noel Edmonds manifested in your living room. And so she was like, so what is this? This thing about Noel Edmonds, is that true?
Is that the hidden game?
That's true, don't leave that. That's...
So it sounds like you're in some controversy from early on. But what I'm particularly interested is that it is a games column, and yet, if we go to the next slide, quite early on in the life of Digitizer, these strange characters start appearing. Now, the first one we've got here is part of the Man Diary, okay? And you can see this. So the second paragraph says, today was the first day in months when he hasn't written a poem about a lion and sent it off to arrange it. The doctors say he's now well enough to be strapped to a giant fiberglass chewit. Now, how do you go from reviewing games to writing that?
I don't know. That's the simple answer. I don't know. I think it was the effect of Tim and I being together. Because we just egged each other on to make each other laugh. So I don't know why we started doing it. I can remember when we first did it. I think the man introduced a competition or something, and he was going to give you a prize from his secret pocket.
A prize from his secret pocket. Right. What did your editors make of that?
Well, that one slipped through.
So did it become a bit like a game where you're trying to slip in filth so that people, your editors wouldn't spot it?
Yes. my favourite one that we got away with was there was a character on EastEnders called Danny Taurus. He was brilliant, this character, Danny Taurus, who wore this really bad wig, and he was a lounge singer or something. And we were obsessed with Danny Taurus. and we put out, I should tell this, there's no children here. We put out an image of Danny Torres.
Children now.
Well, we put out, Danny Torres took over from the man for a couple of weeks, but Danny Torres' toupee didn't look like hair. It very blatantly looked phallic. And I was amazed that we got away with it. No one picked up on it. It wasn't even disguised with like a curl or something. It was just he had a big knob on his head. And then one day we got a letter from a member of the public with a drawing. Obviously, you know, no camera phones in those days, they couldn't take photos. So a drawing of our Danny Torres graphic with the toupee circle saying, with an arrow pointing to it, saying, possible male member, question mark. Can we go, right, we're not putting him up anymore, let's take him.
Talking about your obsessions, our next slide brings us to one of your enduring obsessions, which is indeed Mr. T, which you're probably sporting on your t-shirt as well. I suppose my question is just, why Mr. T, and why was he obsessed with people mucking about with his bins and ringing his doorbell?
I don't know why Mr. T and the bins. I know why the bins, where the bins came from. Because years ago I lived in a council flat and we had above us there was a bunch of kids who kind of just come out of care. So we basically had a 24-hour party above us when my daughter was 2 years old. But outside the front door of our lovely flat were a load of bins. And that's basically where it came from, was these kids kind of, you know, causing trouble. I mean, I got the nickname Hitler. Yeah, they called me Hitler because I told them to stay away from my bin.
So you rebranded him as Mr. T. So Mr. T's effectively you then, is that what we're saying?
And I'm effectively Hitler, so that's something you want to say in public with a microphone in your hand.
Please edit that. Okay, I actually, this whole idea of the humour though, I am intrigued with how it sort of evolved. Did you literally sort of bounce into the office in the morning, say, Tim, what we really need to do, right, is have a talking pig, right, reviewing the games? I mean, like, what?
It tended to be me that came up with the characters because I did the graphics. So, but then when it came to so I draw a picture. So I suppose I wanted to draw a picture of, and then we'd bounce the text back and forth. So he'd write a draft, I'd do a draft. That makes it sound more involved and like there was more thought gone into it than there actually was. You know, it was not. We'd just sit there sometimes next to each other, just making each other laugh as we wrote inappropriate things.
And just so that you certainly did make each other laugh for the first 4 years, but then I understand that after the first 4 years of Digitizer, that Tim got the sack, apparently due to the intervention of none other than bandana-wearing cop David Perry. Please explain.
Yes, well, as I remember this morning, where is he? There he is. I'm going to point out the man responsible for Tim's firing, or at least semi-responsible, is sat in the front row over there. Mr. Andy Martin is now quite rightly holding his head in his hands. I was off on paternity leave, mercifully, so I didn't get fired. But they've been looking for an excuse to split Tim and I up for a while, because they seemed to value me as the guy that did the graphics and just thought Tim was somehow leading me astray. So I was off on paternity leave and, Operation Sack Tim kind of went into full force, and all they needed was an excuse. So we had a tip-off from an anonymous source who told us that Dave Perry had been carpeted for some misdemeanor all over the readership of his magazine. He had to buck his idea up, and Tim put it out on Coffee the Dog and was fired the next day. And he left quite spectacularly. The day I came back from paternity leave, and then Tim was giving his marching orders that morning, and we drew a cup of coffee over a computer, and he walked out and went, "Bye everyone, I've been fired."
Oh, I would have loved to be in the office that day. You mentioned Gossie the dog, which is a nice link, because our next slide actually features Gossie on the right here, who is this talking canine, would often break kind of stories that were happening in the gaming world. One of the benefits, which again we take it for granted on the internet, is that whereas magazines might have a month's running time, you can hear stories and they could be up on the screen in 3 minutes. in a matter of minutes. So I just wondered, is that have you got any favourite stories that you managed to break? Any sort of insider stories that appeared on Digitizer first?
Well, here's the exclusive. A lot of the stories we put out, we made up. We just kept them vague enough that they probably were true. But the best one we got was we were sitting in the lobby of Sega HQ, and we overheard someone talking about how they were going to bundle Sonic and Knuckles with some new version of the Mega Drive. And it was literally just right time, right place. We put it out, and the Mark Maslowitz, the PR, I just remembered something terrible I did to Mark Maslowitz.
Please share.
We were really upset him actually twice. We went to his office. Mark Maslowitz was the head of Sega's PR. Very nice guy. I don't know why we were horrible to him. And he showed us they had God, what's it called? N64. Yes, what?
Ultra 64?
They had an N64. So I was trying to remember which one they had. They had an N64 in the office. I remember we reported on that. He expressly told us not to do it. And we did. And then he left us alone in his office for about 5 minutes once. And he had a notebook on his desk, and we opened it up and we drew a penis in it, one of the later pages.
Can I just say, it's funny that is that a lot of your humour, let's be honest, seems quite schoolboy-like. But the thing I find funny is that both you and Tim were dads, right? Did that actually make you kind of be more juvenile, the fact that actually you were living quite responsible lives?
Well, I don't know if that, mate. I don't know. Maybe I just never grew up. I mean, quite as juvenile as I was kind of 10, 15, 20 years ago. I don't know. I mean, I'm not meant to talk about what I'm currently doing yet, but we did film the other week for the current YouTube channel for the thing that I'm involved in. Video of the living bum, which if any of you have seen what I'm currently writing, there's a character on it called the living bum. But we did film it. It's probably too disgusting to actually even put on the internet. It's so foul.
It's too disgusting to put on the internet. Well, you're telling me there's film on the internet? Good call. Right, well, we're here first. Now, it's perhaps easy to forget with all these kind of memorable surreal characters, is that you were actually writing about games. So this part of the tour, we're going to have a little quiz. Now bear in mind that you wrote reviews of games, they were all for them and they're gone. Let's just see if you remember any of the stuff that you actually wrote. Okay? So we've got 3 games which we've got Paul's review on, and we've blanked out the game. So Paul, if you could just look at the screen, okay? So impresses with these sprites, which are superbly animated throughout. Background graphics are a bit rough and grainy, but that's more a fault of the Mega Drive. Or maybe you. This is your fault. Also, the game has its fair share of hindrance and features, including a bizarre secret bowling game. Overall, it's a decent enough game, but perhaps lacking the long-term appeal of a Mortal Kombat 2 or Super Street Fighter 2. Happy now? Right, so for the honour of remembering what the hell you wrote back then, what game are you reviewing?
I haven't got a clue. That's terrible, isn't it? Oh, it's obviously a beat 'em up of some sort.
Oh, well done.
Oh, yeah. With a secret bowling game. I don't know, Primal Rage?
Oh my god. Well, yeah. The correct answer is, can we give a round of applause for remembering what the hell you wrote? We have 2 more, but like I said, if Paul gets them wrong, you'll open it up to the audience, and I believe we have even got a prize actually as well. So let's hope you get this one wrong. Okay, the next one is on the Saturn. Sega's begun a new practice of buying exclusive release windows for a select AAA third-party title. Who is the first game to be released under the scheme, some months ahead of the PC and PlayStation game? The game is a first-person corridor shooter, okay, Duplo, set in a world of ancient Egyptian magic and mysticism. Now, see the movie Stargate or your mother for further reference. What are you thinking? Did you invent the "your mom" tagline? And is this what's going on here?
I'm pretty certain we invented the phrase casual gamer, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I'm certain we did. I didn't hear it before we started using it.
Casual gamer, your mom, or start with Digitizer. Can you name the game?
No, I don't. I remember the game. I remember it really clearly, but I can't remember the name.
If anyone remembers the game now, put your hand up. check. This one here, what is it? Are we giving them that? Yeah, that was it. Excellent. Well, then, come out. You have won a t-shirt. Well done, mate.
I should warn you that we left the t-shirts in the green room before I came on, and when we went to get them, they were damp. So I don't know what happened. We left them in the corner, so I don't know if Dave Prowse weed on them or something.
Someone clearly loves Digitizer.
So they're damp. They don't. It doesn't smell the dampness, so it might just be water. Might just be water.
So if you want to win a damp Digitizer t-shirt, let's see if you can beat Paul on this is the final one. Okay, so on the PlayStation. Look, Dad, is the PlayStation doing an impression of the Konami platformer on the SNES? Do you love me, Daddy? Yes, little one. That is indeed the case. Though you see, it's no bad thing. Why? Because we love you. Emulating the likes of platform shoot-o-blasts. Again, have you invented that phrase? Shoot-o-blast? Like Gunstar Heroes and Sparks to make them stupid, but it can't disguise the playability. Can you name the... I thought this was the hardest one. Can you name the game?
I've got a clue. It could be anything, couldn't it?
That's why I love it. So has anybody got a hand up if anyone... You've got a hand over there? Stick to your first one, okay? It is indeed Rapid Reload, a damp t-shirt over here. Well done, well done. Not bad, 1 out of 3. It's not too bad, is it?
It was 20 years ago.
Not bad at all. Okay, and just actually on the reviews thing, just on the reviews thing, seeing as you point out that Digitizer at its height was getting 1.5 million views, right, at the time when I believe PlayStation magazine in its height was circulating about 100, 120,000. So you're huge. I just wondered, seeing as I presume you were sent the games to review, you didn't have to go buy them, you were sent them. Were PR people desperate for you to review them, or were they a little bit concerned with your, what should we call it, your esoteric reviewing style?
Yeah, PR people just hated us. I don't know. Do you love me, Daddy? It's not a quote that you can put on the box of Canon folder, is it? That'd be a great quote on it.
So seriously, you got sent games, or did some companies specifically not send you games? You know, your Nintendo and stuff like that?
Yeah, the worst. Oh, you see, you're making me feel nauseous. The worst one was Sony's PR. Because we didn't get, it was Wipeout, which was obviously a massive game, and we kept trying to get in touch with the PR guy, whose name was Glenn O'Connell, and he just wasn't answering our calls, and we were, getting very frustrating. And so, because we were kind of juvenile and unprofessional, we put something out on screen saying, Sony aren't sending us a copy of the big new game, and it's bad PR, O'Connell. And he rang up and went mental, absolutely mental. But we got a copy of the game.
Hey, result. I'm going to move on. Now, you notice I've read a few of these, but this one, Paul, I know you've not seen it for perhaps a while. Would you mind reading this one out?
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't write that. Because that was on the charts page, Wired Charts. That was actually a creation of a guy called Gavin Lambert, who did all our chips and teats and the charts and sorted out the letters for me. So I'll read it, but I didn't write it.
I'm intrigued because, obviously, I don't know who's written what on those pages, but it's very much in the, well, let's just say the Digitizer style. So by this stage, and I think this is 1998, at this stage, have you got sort of a following within Teletext? Will other people sort of write for it?
I don't know about a following in there because they all hated us. Literally, that's not even an exaggeration of me being a paranoid, insecure idiot. Teletext literally hated us. I say us, literally hated me. But I had a mate, Gavin, who did that, who worked actually at Teletext when I started working from home shortly after Tim got fired. The sub-editors, the main editors, they just didn't get it, and they just thought that we were constantly sneaking in these characters with penises for hair.
Which you were constantly sneaking in films.
Yes. There were times when we weren't. That's what egged me on, because we got this reputation fairly early on, probably because of the epilepsy thing and the Noel Edmonds thing. And that, for something I thought, well, if you're seeing things that aren't there, well, I'm going to put them in. Yeah, and I remember one time I got told to take off, you know, you can see down the bottom, you have the links, like Children of the Damned, page 114, which was the kids section. That's really referred to it. And I remember one time I had down the bottom, finger the index, and I genuinely, you see, you're laughing, I genuinely didn't mean anything by it, but I had the senior sub-editor ring me up and say, right, you've got to take that off. And I said, why? I said, you know, we've all got an index finger. And he said, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, I'm not going to say what he said next.
Bear in mind, I've spent the last week or so looking through literally hundreds of pages, and there is this bizarreness that at the bottom of the screen, sometimes it says, you know, we're in a holiday, and sometimes clearly you just put, what's page 160 hippies, 480 beatniks. It's just you
don't even know what sections those were. 480 might have been the music, I don't know, who knows?
But sometimes you refer to a character called Bamba. That just said, what are you doing?
Who was he? A weird character.
Okay, let's move on. We'll move on to the next slide. Which the reason I wanted to put this one on is as with magazines in general, you did encourage interaction with your audience, and there was competition. Can you just look at the question for this competition, which is to win a copy of 11 guests? What would happen if you told 11 guests a joke about chalk? So, did anyone enter this competition? What is the right answer?
What makes us laugh? Yeah, I remember we did a competition, I think it was something about a hat, but I think it was related to, it was an Echo the Dolphin game. And the kid that won, I don't know who gave my copy of the game or whatever it was, but it was something about design a hat for Echo the Dolphin. And it was some little kid wrote in and won because she said she'd make him wear a crash helmet because he'd think it was a ball. And that made us laugh.
Tell us a little bit about, were you getting a lot of letters? Did you think, we've got a huge fan base here? Was it, every morning you came in and like, oh, look what we've got this time? What was it like?
Yeah, well, I mean, when we worked there, when I actually worked in the house at Teletext, there was no email, so we got a big stack every day, and then when I started working from home, Cabin Lambert, it was a wild child, would drop, it was around the corner from me, would drop a selection of letters from that day, because we had too many for me to read to the wall, so we used to cherry pick them. So we might have had lots left the wayside, which would have been great, but
obviously this is pre-internet days and Teletext. I don't remodeling yourself on Mr. T, I don't think your image ever came up there. Were you totally anonymous? I mean, did anyone know it was you that was doing it? Did anyone come to your house, mess about with your bins, and say, you're Mr. Biffo that writes Digitizer, or were you just totally anonymous?
Well, yeah, relatively anonymous. There was, I guess quite a game events when the sun died, the sun came up and said mock to me, and asked me where the man's daddy was. And then I foolishly went on Games Master looking fat and unfashionable as I was.
Totally alive today.
And that was, they put me on there as Paul Rose, and that was the point at which I think people kind of linked the two together. Being Mr. Biffo was an attempt to be anonymous since the man's sitting on a stage with a microphone in his hand.
Thanks for that. Okay, now, while you might have been anonymous, some of the people that wrote for Digitizer weren't. Can we have the first one? This is, I think, in terms of the limited palette there, I think you've done a cracking likeness of Violet Berlin, a well-known games journalist and TV games presenter. And just tell us, how did Violet get involved with Digi?
Violet was a fan. We were at the ECTS, which was the European Consumer Trade Show, and she wrangled an excuse to meet with us, and we became really good friends with her. Went to LA with her and Norway. But no, she was great. I thought it was very lovely. I haven't seen her in years, spoken to her, but she might not be lovely anymore. It's probably horrible now, but she was very lovely.
So we've gone from the very lovely, there was also someone else who was on. Now I believe that's your rendition of the Stuart Campbell. I'd just like to say, did you spend a long time just trying to get his flat top absolutely spot on?
Looks more like Tintin's kind of weird curl, or massive pins, actually, kind of with legs. Actually, it looks like E.T. from the Atari VCS game. Sorry, I've got totally sidetracked there by Stuart Campbell's curl.
What did you make of Stuart? Were you mates?
I never knew him that well, but we met at a few games events. He would chat on the phone because we had to, because he was doing stuff for us. But yeah, we never kind of hung out socially.
Never hung out with a flat top. Now, while Stuart Campbell could sometimes divide opinions, so could Digitizer. And whilst you had a very loyal following, you mentioned that some people in Teletext didn't like you at all. I understand that sort of around 2001, when Teletext was in a bit of trouble because their holiday revenue had fallen off because of the terrorist attacks at 9/11, is that you were told by an editor to make Digitizer, I think the word was bland. Would you like to tell us about that little episode?
I don't know if he used the word bland. He told us they brought us a new feature centre, a new deputy feature centre, and I was taken into a room, told that Digitizer excluded people and wasn't funny, and we had to lose all the bizarre humour, and oh, by the way, we're cutting it down 3 days a week, and slashing your salary in half. So, I mean, it was literally one of the most horrible professional experiences of my life, because they played good cop, bad cop. The feature was really nice, and then there was this horrible known man who was just so rude to me. I mean, just like, he never met me before. It was just astonishingly kind of nasty about Digi. I had it all worked out for the best.
You did, I mean, you could have just worked out though, and you did.
And I had a mortgage, I had a mortgage, and kind of kids to support. It wasn't an option to just quit, it was, I needed money from it.
But I understand that actually it was worth sticking to it, because after, I don't know, 6 months, a year, I'm not quite sure you tell us, but thanks to your fan base, they managed to relent. So tell us about that.
They got me in for another meeting it was probably about 10 months later, after Digi just presented all the plan and we started doing press releases for the best part of the year. And in that year, the letters hadn't stopped. I mean, literally, they must have had thousands of letters of people saying that, it's bring back the humour, bring back the characters. So they called me in for a meeting. They were talking about redesigning Digitizer and the team stuff. Then it was with one of the features editors, not the same one who was a good cop, and this horrible little known man.
So the known was...
He said nothing throughout the meetings. The other meetings were all very civil and very nice, like just straight. And as I was leaving, we'd like to bring back all the characters of human.
Now you must have felt validated there. That must have been a great day to be at TV.
It was good, yeah. I was like actually validated more by kind of returning my salary to what it had been before, which they didn't do.
Okay, right, at all. And so you did carry on, but then in 2003, when you were told that there was going to be some changes at Digitizer, and I think that was the point that you decided to call it a day. Was that a difficult decision?
Well, it was. This is how it was. This is children here.
This is what Paul put up on the very last day of Digitizer. But it's just a word. It's a term of the word.
He's just being sick, yes. See, if I was a sub-editor, I wouldn't have cleared that for going out. What was the question?
Yeah, the question was that, was it a difficult decision? It had been part of your daily life for 10 years. Was giving up Digitizer, did it leave a big hole in your life?
It wasn't a difficult decision at all. I mean, I made the decision in literally 30 seconds because I had Gavin Lambert, God bless him. He rang me up and said, look, there's something going down here. I think they're going to axe Digitizer. And I've had so much grief from them over the years, probably with complete justification. You know, I brought it upon myself, let's face it. But actually, I was sort of just a bit worn out. But I thought, oh, here we go. I'm going to be dragged in again, and you know, I can't rely on this anymore as my income. So Gary warned me that this was going to happen, and then the horrible known of the Finnish centre rang me up and said, yeah, we'd like to come in for a meeting. And so I put the phone down and I thought, no, I'm not doing it. So I literally rang him straight back and said I quit. Yeah, more or less that, actually I'm going to quit Digitiser. And he then said, oh, actually we're going to talk to you about standing section, giving you a pay rise. So,
well, you certainly went out with a memorable climax, do you see? So you left Digitizer behind, but you didn't quite leave games behind. You started writing a regular column, I think roughly at the same time, a little bit afterwards, for Edge magazine. How did that come about?
I was interviewed by Steve Cohen at Edge. It was shortly before I quit. And I didn't know I was going to quit, and something was obviously, building in me. And then, so I did this interview with Edge, and I had a phone call from the loan. And I don't know, somehow, kind of thing, I was starting to write scripts for TV, and that seemed to be starting to happen. So, yes, I quit, and they put the Edge feature, Mr. trying to bit at the bottom, saying Mr. Biffo's actually left Digitiser since giving this interview. And then I just dropped them an email, and I dropped Tony Martin an email and said, about column. So I thought, well, you know, I still want to write about games, I still want to see that. That's not a very interesting story at all. So I climbed through the valley of Kamar.
I'm interested that you've gone from Digitizer, which in your own words, Teletext is the scrag end of journalism, that's your words, not mine. And you've gone to what's normally considered, well, country politics, one of the best or the most pretentious, it depends where you stand on this, magazine. So were you given any kind of editorial diktat, you know, you need to be more highbrow, or could you just write whatever you wanted?
No, there was no interference except for one time, and I'm just wondering if you're going to lead on to that. No, they let me do whatever I wanted, apart from one time.
But you're not going to tell me this one time?
Some of you may know this is about as embarrassing a public commission as anything. My favourite band is Multicam, the problem. Unbelievable. My girlfriend's from Australia, and she doesn't come with all this baggage. She doesn't get why Meridian or fun anymore. So
you had to go across the other side of the globe to find a partner that wouldn't judge you.
Exactly.
Well done, mate. Well done.
So anyway, every 2 years we laugh, but this is where, if you like, I go to a Meridian weekend in Holland, and we listen to Meridian for 3 days and get drunk. So I can still hear laughing on my own. Anyway, I happened to be at this Meridian weekend, I think it was in 2007. And it was due in the afternoon, they were having a raffle. And unbelievably, Phil Allison, the head of PlayStation Europe, got up on stage suddenly. So I got on stage, I pounded on, kind of grabbed the microphone off the man and said, I'm auctioning a PlayStation 2. PlayStation 3. It was horrible. It was horrible. I thought, you know, bloody hell, this has happened for a reason. I'm in this room with, you know, the head of PlayStation. I'm kind of like college reg. I've got to write about this. So I did write that in a really horrible, sneery way, which I couldn't hold to. I don't know whether he was just caught up in the moment or off his face on ecstasy or something. I don't know. But anyway, he was up on stage. So he's rotten. That was a completely baseless accusation. I've lost my thread now. Anyway, yes, I sent this column to Edge. Edge said we can't print that. And I said, okay, do you mind if I put it on my blog? And they said, no, that's absolutely fine. So I put it on my blog and it became like a massive international news story. And it was just horrible. So I felt really bad for Phil Allison. I don't know why it was worse. It became kind of a big story like that than it just being Edge. But it was.
So you stayed involved with games, writing about them, and you also met 2 chaps who are from around here. And who are these fellas, and how did you get involved with them?
That's the Robin Pickford brothers who employed me to write a script for a game of theirs called Future Tactics. And I knew them from Digitizer. They'd been done for each one 3 times, and I just thought, yes, lovely fellas. I'm not seeing them in years either.
So you wrote the script for that particular game. Have you ever considered getting a job in games development, and if so, what would be your ideal role?
Yeah, there's part of me that wants to do it. I mean, I think nowadays, I was going to say I don't know if I want a job as such. I'd rather want to do it on my own terms. So I'd love to do indie games myself. I've got a few stupid ideas, so I have to do it all with control freaks.
If you're doing networking later, feel free. Okay, on our next slide, please. Now, the problem that I have always had with Dirty Den is that he's not dirty enough. Paul, is there any way that you can make Dirty Den say the C word?
Yes, I did.
How? How did you do that, Paul?
Believe it or not, I wrote one episode only of EastEnders, and I can't imagine why. In which I got Dirty Den to utter the phrase "big constable," and Leslie Grantham, God bless him, basically hyphenated the word, and it went out on BBC One. What a lot of people don't know about that episode is that one of the policemen he was referring to was called DCI Kister, which is the name of a character that Leslie Grantham played in Doctor Who.
It's trivia, also. You have actually, since leaving Digi and games, is that you have written for television, 4 o'clock for My Parents Are Aliens, Danny's Castle, lots of kids TV. I just wondered if there was any parallels with the kind of stuff you wrote for Digitizer and what you wrote for TV, or are they very different skills?
I don't believe it or not, actually, in that EastEnders episode, there was a reference to Zombie Dave at one point that got taken out. I'm serious, there was a Zombie Dave's pizza company that featured in it, in one of the earlier drafts. I don't know, kids TV, I don't want to kind of put dodgy stuff in there and kind of too much personal stuff, but it feels that's not appropriate for the audience, so I'm sort of more well behaved when it comes to my kids TV work.
Very pleased to hear it. And talking about being well behaved, and this next slide, I just simply want to say, can you explain?
This was a book that I wrote, well, that's not a book that I wrote, that's a photograph of me dressed as Digitizer, frightening book that I wrote, in which I lured men into honey traps.
So can you say that again? You lured men into honey traps. Would you like to flesh that out a bit?
What can I say? I would engage them in chats on AOL, and I got a book out of it.
Thanks, Paul.
And I sent them photographs of myself looking like that.
Can I say, when you sent the photograph, is that the point that the conversation ceased, or did some indeed continue with sending you stuff?
Yeah, some of them would indeed continue asking me to show them my boobs.
I think that book is still available on Amazon. Is that right?
Yeah, the 1p. I'm not joking. It's literally available for 1p on. Don't get any royalties either because the company went bust after it was
Okay, so our final slide brings us up to date. And this is Digitizer 2000. And Paul, they do say never go back. So, what made you set up this website, kind of in the spirit of Digi from back in the 90s?
I just missed it. I mean, I missed it so much. I think right like that, I've written for kids TV, and I'm surprised you haven't mentioned the dog film, actually.
The dog film? Oh, the dog. I thought there was something called filthy when you said the dog film.
I've written a lot of stuff where it felt like I'm quite compromised, shall we say, and I wasn't like saying it was my own, but I didn't know what. And then there is a story behind, I can't mention his name. I'm not going to mention his name, but there used to be a character we had on Digitizer called CyberX, and he was based on a genuine, real games journalist. And I happened to be reading, I I'm not a Nazi, by the way, even though I said I was Hitler. I happened to be reading the Daily Mail online, and there's a story in there about a journalist who'd gone bankrupt. And for some reason that led me to her Twitter account where she was talking about this question. And then I noticed that one of the comments on replies to her on Twitter was by a familiar name, was the name of this. I thought that can't be the same guy. And so I kind of went down the rabbit hole, shall we say. And it was him, and he's now a motivational speaker and life coach, and he self-publishes his own books. And they're brilliant. I bought one for I think £2. They're so lacking in self-awareness. He's like the last person that would want giving you kind of like life advice, you know. And his basic thing is to, yeah, do it, yeah. I mean, there's some videos on him online. You can probably find him. Anyway, I'm rambling. And I think I showed it to my girlfriend, and I don't know, I just wrote something, CyberX, what he'd be doing now with his motivational speaking. And she really liked it. I thought, God, I've missed this. I've really missed writing it. So I had a website, and I stuck it on the website, and then I thought, well, okay, I've got a Twitter account, I've just done it public. It was frankly terrifying because I've been banished for so many years.
I just said, my final question is, does it feel like the old days? Is this a bit of a full circle kind of moment?
Well, I never did this in the
I don't know what this is.
Yeah, it does, I love it. I love doing it so much, and we've got, people support on Patreon, on PayPal, and, it's really lovely of them. And I think, one of the best things in life that you can have is being surrounded by people who be you, and that is so true. People that read Digitizer, or Digitizer 2000, is they let me write as me, and that is a lovely gift to have in your life.
Well, you love doing it, and we've loved having you. Ladies and gentlemen, give you a round of applause. Okay, we have got a roving mic somewhere here. So if anyone would like to ask Paul, Mr. Biffo, any questions about any part of his career, in the traditional way, stick your hand up, and we'll come around with a microphone. So if anyone wants... There's one over there.
Our guest, whose name is legend. What is best in life?
What is best in life? Wow, God, you start easy now, don't you? No, I think it's exactly what I just said. Being this is not funny, is it? Me saying kind of something decent to people. Being surrounded by people that love you for who you really are.
This is becoming a bit confessional, isn't it? Thank you very much. Have we got any more questions in the audience? We would love to hear from you. Yay, we've got a chap over here.
To retire today and get replaced by 10 years younger. What advice would you give them?
Can you possibly
If you were going to retire today and you were replaced by a Paul who's 10 years younger, what advice would you give you, 10 years younger? This is like watching your pages load, by the way. You're going to give us the 5th answer out of 10 pages, and you'll have to wait for the first bit.
Go on, the class text it. I'll tell you to stay away from my bins.
Hey, I see what you did there. Okay, we got any more questions in the audience? We've got one here.
Hello, Paul.
Hello.
I just want to talk about Zombie Dave, one of my favourite characters. Who came up with him, and how did he get this kind of obsession with porn? And did the higher ups ever catch on to that?
No, you need to talk about Zombie Dave. There's a book there.
Yes, I got them. No, they never, ever got Zombie Dave. They would get stuff that wasn't near the knuckle. I remember one time, when it was the thing with the indexing, I got told to take out a reference to the 3 R's. If anyone's old enough to know what the 3 R's are, they're reading, writing, arithmetic. And I still don't understand to this day. The explanation I got wasn't, kids, when you've got R's, where it's a bit like arse. It's like, well, but no, zombie tape really never got picked up on. And I don't know where it came from either. It was just an excuse to smuggle smut into digital.
Thank you, blessed every day. We've got time for a couple more questions. Stick your hand up if you like. Hey, we've got a chap down the front. What would you say was the most memorable press trip that you went on and why? What happened?
LA with Virgin Interactive, because we spent a day and a half in the Virgin's offices and then spent the rest of the week in LA. Tim, we were there, it was Tim, Violet Berlin, boyfriend, and Tim weed up the side of Clive Barker's house once.
Talking about PR, John, did you get to go to an Oasis gig? And did Ocean such an Oasis gig? And then did you any additional benefits that they threw in for that evening? Or?
My first time in Manchester, I believe we took that.
His first time in Manchester. We've got time for one more question if anyone would like to finally quiz Mr. Biffo before we let him go on his merry way. One last question. The worst game you've ever reviewed?
The lowest score on a game was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein on the Game Boy, which we gave, I think, 0%. Which then turned it into, it was Kenneth Branagh's Mary Shelley's. I don't know. Anyway, that based on the film, it's just a platform, which is ridiculous. Yeah, we gave it nothing.
And on that note, let's not give Paul nothing. Can we give a big round of applause, not only for today, but also the entertainment over the many, many years. Cheers, and Paul! Before I go, can I just say also big thank you to Marty, the man who did all the lights here, but also put together these fantastic pages as well. We're back, me and Martin are back tomorrow at 1 o'clock when Warren Davis, the creator of Cuba, will be on the stage. The next thing that's happening here is a cosplay parade, I think at 2:30, which means we've just got time for me and you to go into our Mario and Princess Peach costume. Can I have the princess this time? Okay, we'll find about it. Thank you, enjoy the rest of your week and we'll see you later. Cheers.
Another round of applause, please, for Paul and Paul. So yes, our cosplay masquerade is on this stage at 2:30. And at 4:30 today we'll be having a talk about 20 years of PlayStation. Fizz Films will be here doing a story of PS1. So that's at 4:30 on the stage.
Paul Rose, Mr. Biffo, welcome to Play Expo.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking the time out to chat to us on this podcast. Brilliant. You've just done your talk, haven't you, to a PAX auditorium?
Yes, which was nice. It was kind of there's a sort of happy medium between too few people and too many, but I think we were somewhere in the middle. All 61, no people standing, but it wasn't, I don't know, Wembley Stadium size, so I could handle that. Plus I couldn't see because there was a light shining in my face, so that helped with any nerves.
So with millions of people watching your Teletext pages in the 90s, at what point do you get nervous? What number of people in the audience do you get nervous?
That's a very good question. I don't know, you probably get to a point where you kind of reach a tipping point of kind of about 100,000 where it kind of starts cancelling itself out. I don't know, I've done a few things on stage and stuff. I genuinely don't get nervous. I think people have come to hear me waffle on, so I'm preaching to the converted.
Have you met a lot of Teletext fans here today then?
Fair few, yeah. There was quite a few people queuing up afterwards, which was lovely. And it's the fact that they take the time to say hello and I like your work, or I've been a fan for a long time. It really, it means a lot. I really appreciate it.
So is it fair to say this is the first time you've been to an Expo convention?
To this one, certainly. I mean, I've been to kind of MCM in London a few times, and a few others that I've been to, but mainly more kind of film and comic and TV ones. I've not been, believe it or not, to a games one other than kind of trade shows back in the day.
Oh, that's funny. What sort of film work have you done in general?
Film work?
If any,
There's a leading question. I wrote last year's least popular movie, Pudsey the Troll. Thank you for introducing that topic.
I'm surprised you admitted to that.
Do you know what? I don't care. I honestly don't. There's a strange badge of honour with having written a film so kind of universally loathed. And it was a job at the end of the day. I got paid for it. It would have been nice if it had done a bit better and I got paid a bit more. But
look, I'm sure, Paul, nobody would begrudge you that. No matter how many people come out and say, "Oh, it's an awful film," you've got to work, haven't you? You've got to make a living. Yes. These are the sorts of things that you've got to do. All right, well, thank you very much for joining us today, Paul. Steve, you have anything to ask?
thanks.
Oh, just one more question. Do you know what a dendy is?
A dendy?
A dendy. D-E-N-D-Y.
No. Should I? A dendy?
Well, it's the subject of today's podcast, the Retro Video Gamer.co.uk podcast.
Now this rings a bell. What is a dendy?
The dendy is a Russian clone of the Nintendo Entertainment System.
I do.
That was, it was the dominant system in the early 90s
I
in
was
Russia.
doing, funny enough, you just reminded me of a feature that I've got in my drafts folder at home about Russian gaming. And yes, that's how I know the name.
Ah, right, so you did, after all, excellent. So more people know the dendy than you might think.
There we go.
And with that is thank you very much, Mr. Biffo. Cheers.
Very pleasure is what I was going to say. It's a very pleasure to be here.
Cheers. Thank you.